2022 brought us the worst performing equity market since 2008, and the bond market was in the most rough shape we've seen in over 40 years. Let's take a look at the last year and see what 2023 may have in store for us. Last year, we saw four items really control the narrative. Obviously, the markets are far more nuanced and complicated, but for the purposes of simplicity, we saw the biggest harbingers as China's zero COVID policy, energy shortages, the Russian invasion of Ukraine, and rising interest rates globally. Now, what did that get us? Well, the S&P dropped about 19.5%, the TSX Composite was down 8.2%, and the Canadian dollar depreciated 6.8% relative to the US dollar. The biggest winning sectors were energy, up close to 60% on the year, with the next best sector being utilities, which was actually down about 1.5% on the year. The biggest losers were telecom, down over 40%, and the consumer discretionary sector down about 37.5% on the year. As mentioned at the top of the video, this was the worst bond market in 40 years, and stocks were hit the hardest since the Great Recession in 2008. But it wasn't just investors who felt it. At home, we've all seen inflation hit our budgets on everything from fuel prices to groceries. This seems to be the target of major governments as they try to tackle inflation using the tools at their disposal. So what will this year bring? Keep in mind, these predictions are based on information available at the time of filming and are just that, predictions. They're not intended as investment advice, but rather to help us wrap our heads around what this year might bring us. At the time of filming this, we're seeing China open up their borders to travelers, Putin wanting a ceasefire over Orthodox Christmas in Ukraine, and central banks talking about slowing the pace of interest rate hikes. This gives us hope on 3 out of 4 of the big culprits that we saw last year. But that doesn't help us with the energy shortage. Currently, oil inventories are at multi-year lows and worsening, and this will only be exacerbated by China's reopening and the strategic US Petroleum Reserve releases coming to an end. This causes us to have a continued favorable outlook on the energy sector, but very cautious elsewhere. As for interest rates, our prediction at this time is that we see interest rates plateau sometime in the second quarter of this year, with mild interest rate cuts coming near the end of this year. The effect that this will have on the equity markets is that we see them moving sideways for the first half of this year, with the potential for a liftoff in the second half of the year. Why sideways and not down for the first half of this year? Well, this is because we believe most of the downward pressure was felt last year on the markets when they were forced to digest so many negative headlines coming out of everywhere. And why do we see markets going up in the back half of 2023? Well, when we see major central banks halt interest rate increases, it will allow investors to breathe a little and get a sense of where the pieces are on the board. Then, if interest rates drop, even a little, it will allow for greater growth in the economy and will be a positive indicator for investment in more debt-intensive sectors like information technology. We also believe this year may have a possible positive outcome, as statistically negative consecutive annual returns in the S&P 500 are rare, happening only over 4 periods since 1928. These were from 1929 to 32, 39 to 41, 73 to 74, and 2000 to 2002, with each of these periods having global geopolitical and economic events that were arguably worse than what we are currently facing. So as long as we are able to get some more good news coming in the first half of this year, we feel pretty good about our prospects. Of course, all of this being said, things can change at a moment's notice as the world we live in and the markets are dynamic. As I like to say to our clients whenever they ask me for my outlook, ask me again tomorrow, as my opinion could be very different. Please always keep in mind that all investing carries risk. There's no such thing as a guarantee, and I always strongly recommend consulting an investment professional before putting your money to work in the markets. If you have any questions about what this means to you and your investments, please feel free to give us a call, whether you are a current client or not, as our job is to help you live a life well invested. I'm Mike Salisbury, Portfolio Manager with Strong Private Wealth of Raymond James. Thank you for watching, and we wish you all the best that 2023 has to offer.